guys, I'm Laura Goodwin and this is lauraxannie. Welcome to the first in a series of Understanding Romeo and Juliet. Today we will tackle the prologue up and then Act 1, Scene 1, Scene 2 and Scene 3. So basically I have the play here, I have my notes here. We're just going to take you through it and just little things I learned, little facts, little fiction, that sort of thing, and hopefully it'll help you in some way. I know exams are over now and you probably don't have your higher English on Romeo and Juliet, but you know. Right, so let's start off with the prologue. The prologue is two households, both alike in dignity, in fair Verona where we lay our scene, from ancient grudge break to new mutiny. With civil blood makes civil hands unclean. From forth the fatal loins of these two foes, a pair of star-crossed lovers take their life, whose misadventures, piteous overthrows, doth with their death do bury their parents' strife. The fearful passage of their death-marked love and the continuance of their parents' rage, which but their children's end not could remove, is now the 2 hours traffic of our stage. The which, if you with patient ears attend, what here shall miss, or toil, shall strive to mend. That is the prologue. The prologue basically tells the audience what is going to happen. It reiterates that it is a play. So like the 2 hours traffic of our stage. So basically telling you, guys, this is a play, this isn't real. And you know, it's trying to tell you that the death-marked love, so the two, Romeo and Juliet, who die on stage, are actors. They're not really dying because a lot of the groundlings didn't understand that. It actually also lets the audience in on the secret, which is quite cool as well, because it just lets them in on the whole thing of, you know what's going to happen, but the actors on stage don't. Ha ha ha! So on to Scene 1, we are introduced to Gregson and Samson, who are Capulets. First of all, Capulets is Juliet's side, Montagues is Romeo's side. Basically, Capulets and Montagues fight like Rangers and Celtic. God. So Scene 1 is actually full of innuendos. Aye, the heads and the maids, oh, their maiden heads, take it in one sense thou wilt, basically means cut off their heads or their maiden heads, basically their virginity. So take my remark in which sense that you want to. So basically, you know, either I'm going to cut off their heads or I'm going to take their virginity. Take it whatever way you want to. Innuendos were actually used for the groundlings who could, most of them could not read or write, but they could understand innuendos. So Shakespeare wrote into a lot of even his tragedies, a lot of innuendos that the groundlings would understand and would laugh at, because the groundlings were those that stood in the globe right at the bottom, in the cheap seats basically. After we're introduced to Gregson and Samson Capulets, we're also introduced to Abraham, who is a Montague. The first thing that happens in Scene 1 after all the innuendos is a fight that the Capulets instigate, which is a popular theme throughout the play, that the Capulets are the ones that instigate the fights. It never really is the Montagues, I don't think. Then we are introduced to Benvolio, who is Romeo's cousin, and also introduced to Tybalt, who is Juliet's cousin. Look out for both Benvolio and Tybalt, they are important characters throughout the play. Even when one of them meets their demise, it is important that when he dies, it's a very big thing, so we'll get on to that in the next couple of weeks. Well, next couple of months. After the fight, Prince appears and he basically tells everyone shut the f up and stop it. And basically tells them that there has now a truce, there now must be a truce. Anyone who is caught fighting any Montague or Capulet will be sent to jail, and that's it. So it's trying to say let's keep our streets clean because civil blood makes civil hands unclean. Basically, civilians are getting caught in the middle of the Montague and Capulets fights. We are introduced to Romeo finally. After Benvolio decides to go and talk to Romeo's parents, we are introduced to a melancholy Romeo who is a son of a... He is currently in love, i.e. lusting over Rosalind. This is important to note, that what he feels for Rosalind is what most boys feel like when they are trying to pull it in clubs. Rosalind is playing basically hard to get because she's basically said to him that she's celibate and she won't have sex till her wedding day, so she's playing hard to get with Romeo. And if you actually read After Juliet by Sharon MacDonald, aka Keira Knightley's mum, it's really, really good. Rosalind basically is like, Ashtabid Romeo, and everyone basically is like, you just played hard to get. But yeah, so Romeo's essentially sexually frustrated because he's not getting into Rosalind's pants. And he's full of pity for himself and is basically being a very selfish brat. Which most boys at age 16 are, to be brutally honest. And he tends to go from, you find the reason that what we can see that he is melancholy is because he goes from one subject to another. Basically Benvolio says, alas, that love so gentle in his view should be so tyrannous and rough in proof, basically, like, oh, it's a shame you're in love, like, oh, it's so difficult being in love. And he goes, alas, that love whose view is muffled still should without eyes see pathways to his will, like, can you just, and then he goes, where shall we dine? And then he goes, oh me, what fray was here? All in the middle of 3 lines. So he basically goes from, oh, love is so hard, to what are we having for dinner, till what, why is there blood in your arm? What fight what, are you in a fight? It's very quick-witted, like when they do it on stage it's actually quite good because it's just like, he's like, oh this, where shall we dine? Oh me, what fray was here? He's so dramatic. He's over dramatic. Tut, I have lost myself. I am not here. This is not Romeo. He's some other where. What? Basically he's saying that I'm not Romeo. He's lost. Like, I'm not Romeo. I'm not the Romeo you know. Like, just because some girl doesn't want to get in your pants, like, he really annoys me at the start of the play. I really don't like Romeo. But into scene 2, the first part of scene 2, act 1, we are introduced to Paris, who is actually Juliet's fiance. Well, soon to be fiance. Paris is trying to butter up Capulet to get, basically, to marry Juliet. And I actually quite like Paris. But basically, then after that, we are introduced to Pete, who is a servant, also someone who the groundlings would understand. And he is essentially fate in a way because he hands, as Benvolio and Romeo help him read it and basically get an invitation to the party because Rosalind is going. That is why Romeo wants to go, because Rosalind is a Capulet. So Romeo wants to go because he's like, I'm going to get in on this. I am going to get right in on this. So he's really excited to be there at the party because that's where Rosalind essentially is. But little does he know he's going to find the love of his life, because he says, I'll go along, no such sight to be shown, but to rejoice in splendour of mine own, which basically means I'll go with you, not because I think you'll show me anything better than Rosalind, but so I can see the woman I love, which essentially is what happens. He does see the woman he loves, essentially, but she's not Rosalind, she's Juliet. On to scene 3, we're introduced to Lady Capulet and the nurse, and we find out that Juliet is 13, but she'll turn 14 in just over 2 weeks. The nurse cares for Juliet and is a character which is relatable to most groundlings and most people actually. She's very very talkative, over talkative. Know anyone like that? Yeah. And she also brings a lot of comic relief to the tragedy. A lot of her a lot of her monologues are so funny, and she's a really funny character. But she's also a very motherly, caring character, and I think she's more motherly than Juliet's mother. Lady Capulet can't be older than 28 as she became Juliet's mother at either 13 or 14, so she can't be that old. So I think the nurse has more life experience, and a lot of the nurse's children died in childbirth. So she kind of feels that, you know, she has a daughter and that is Juliet. Juliet is actually very smart for her age. She doesn't want to marry for money or a title. She wants to marry for love, which is very important. And she's very smart for a 13-year-old, and she's definitely more mature than Romeo. If we look through the whole play, you can tell that she is 10 times more smarter and more kind of mature. So Juliet comes out with this line which tells us that she doesn't want to marry for a title. She said, I'll look to like, if looking like he move, but no more deep will I endear into mine eye than your consent gives strength to make it fly. Basically, I'll look at him and try to like him, at least if what I see is likeable. But I won't let myself fall for him any more than your permission allows. So basically she's like that, right, if I don't like him, I'm not going to marry him. But of course I'll marry him because it's, you know what I mean? She's just sort of like, I don't want to marry for love. I don't want to marry if I don't like him, basically. So it'll become clear as we go through the play that although Juliet is 3 years younger than Romeo, she is 10 times more mature than him, especially when we get to the balcony scene I think in Act 2, or maybe possibly Act 2, I think it's the balcony scene, and you can tell that like she is 10 times more mature. She knows her stuff. She knows her stuff of love, but Romeo thinks he has more experience when really he doesn't. So that was it. I really hope this was understandable, and I really hope you enjoy it. And I hope you continue watching the next season, and I will see you next week with another video. Bye!